Wait for the last few people to trickle in. I'm going to show you a video that some of you have already seen, but I'm hoping not all of you have seen it yet.
It's pretty sweet.
Ready to go? Let's get started.
My demon master resides within this hellhole. I cannot shadow it outright, but I can cast a spell that will make an unwitting fool the agent of its destruction. Such as Thalia. You, Katha. Save this shiny rock, or save the lives of your fellow warriors. Predictable. Grizzlebrand, the demon I seek to remove my curse.
Avacyn.
With Avacyn restored, my interests now lie elsewhere.
Legions of angels have been given a renewed sense of purpose, and clearly strength is returning to our people. Archmages are again wielding their divine power. Once fearsome predators are now subservient guardians. And this reign of darkness will end.
So I want to call out in that video at the end and talked about the pre-release. How many are planning on going to the Avacyn Restored pre-release?
Yeah!
Good, because there is, you will not be disappointed, and be sure to pre-register to take part of the Hellball.
Hellball experience. It's awesome.
Talk to your stores to make sure that you can get a chance to participate in that. So welcome to the Magic Panel, yay! So I'm Paul Levy, one of the brand managers on the Magic brand team, and we're with a great panel here. We've got some of the creatives and designers and developers of Avacyn Restored, so that's cool. Can't hide those. So they're actually out of order here on the panel than they are on the slide we're looking at, but we've got Brady Donovan. He is the creative designer. We also have Dave Guskin. There you go. And development manager. We've got Dave Humphreys. So the way it's going to work, we have they put together slides talking about some of the things behind the scenes for Avacyn Restored, and embedded in that, you're going to get to see some preview cards from Avacyn Restored. We will do our very best to save some time for some questions and answers. While you've got these guys here, it's a great time to kind of pick their brain on the upcoming set. And that's it. Let's get moving. Let's get rolling.
Thanks, Paul. So, Bolas minions in the front two rows, thank you so much for showing your fealty. And now I'm so bad. You can take them off so the people behind you can see. That's something we didn't really think about, so I really appreciate it. All right, so I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. I just want to show you a bunch of cool stuff. It's going to be pretty free form. I don't have a script or anything. I'm going to talk about the story and the art of Avacyn Restored, so here we go. This is Avacyn herself. We wanted in this block to stay true to a Gothic horror setting, but to have a dramatic tonal turn. And the Hellvault, as you know, is this huge chunk of moon silver in which Avacyn imprisoned all kinds of dark threats that she couldn't handle herself. What you might not know is that she herself was tricked into the Hellvault by the demon Grizzlebrand. They had a 3-day-long fight that ended in a standoff, and just at the last moment when she was banishing Grizzlebrand to the Hellvault, Grizzlebrand pulled her in with him. That is where she has been. So I think a lot of you have seen this art by now. We got some reaction from players saying, well, geez, she looks an awful lot like Sorin. That's on purpose. The Kadashenti among you probably know that Sorin Markov, the planeswalker who is a native of Innistrad, created Addison. He created her to keep the balance between light and darkness on his own home plane because he was worried about things of the night basically feeding on humanity until humanity was extinct. Here's Addison's art herself. You see the wind silver spear there. You might see that in card form very soon. You also see that Addison has the same, even though she's the savior of this world and she's unmistakably a good guy, she does not have black man in her cost as Soren does. She's the straight up savior of this world, so she is mono white. And a lot of you have seen this, but some of you have not. Here is her cover. We're pretty excited about our card. The flavor text points to our very limited ability to tell complex stories on cards. We try to give you as much story as we can in 4 lines of flavor text here. A golden helix streaked skyward from the hellvault, a thunderous explosion shattered the silver monolith, and Addison emerged free from her prison at last. So how did that happen? The clever little Easter egg that I want to point out to you is that Liliana the Veil, her ultimate, her final ability is to divide all permanents into 2 piles. The opponent chooses one to save, everything else is destroyed. That's exactly what Liliana does to the Cathar Thalia. She puts Thalia and all of her friends in one pile and puts the Hellvault in the other. We wanted, as I said, a tonal shift here. So, you see, Innistrad is all about hats. So, you get more tricorn hat, but you get tricorn hat in sunlight instead of in gloomy darkness. We wanted to show humanity being awesome. We wanted to turn the tables on the things of the night and allow humans to push back, take back their towns and villages and restore balance in the world. So I'm going to show you a bunch of art. You'll see cards a little bit later on. And the main purpose of showing you the art is just to show you how awesome our artists are. This is Jason Chan. My big thanks to art director Jeremy Jarvis for commissioning all this art. And you'll see some stuff soon from the concept illustrator Richard Witters, whose concepts all the stuff is based on. Now, with humanity on the rise, that means the monsters are not having such a great time anymore. This vampire is being skewered by sunlight, and even little bats are scared. So now I'm going to show some concept art. What I'm hoping to do here is show you some pages from the Addison Restored World Guide. We produce a world guide for every block, at least, and sometimes for every set. It's filled with concept illustrations that go out to all of our writers and artists who then flesh it out and make it real. This is the original Addison concept from Richard Witters. She started off a little bit more romantic of an angel image. Those of you who know the card Endless Ranks of the Dead, Endless Ranks of the Dead shows a huge stained glass window with Addison on it. She looks all peaceful and robed and stuff, and now she's a little more mad. She's a little darker now for having spent a few years in the Hellvault, and is looking to aggressively restore balance on the plane. This plane is also, as you can imagine, with the restoration of Addisonian magic returns to the world. The divine magic that Addison enables returns to the world in all kinds of different ways. One of those ways is that Addison's flights of angels were restored. Now, the world had some angels on it before, some angels that had survived the banishment, but with her return, the angels were newly empowered. And we needed to come up with lots of different looks for our angels to make sure that they could fulfill a variety of roles. So here are some angel concepts. You can see some look almost priestly, others look more warrior-like or even rogue-like. And that's because this set has a lot of angels. You're going to see all these cards soon enough, so I'm just showing you the illustrations. I'm not even going to name most of them. Scott Chu. That's not Scott Chu, you're right. That card was illustrated by Scott Chu. These illustrations by Igor Kierler. That's Todd Lockwood. We also have a few angels who have a little bit of a special status. Suffice to say that Avison is not the only legendary angel in this set. Avison has 3 main flights of angels. There's the flight of Gold Knight, flight Alabaster, and flight of Herons. Each of the flights has a messenger. This is Bruna. Bruna is the messenger of flight of Herons? Yes. This is Sigarda. Sigarda is the messenger of flight Alabaster. And this is Gisela. Gisela is the messenger of flight Gold Knight. However, every magic setting needs conflict. And what Avison does not do is turn the world of Innistrad into a bright, happy, peaceful, super boring place. There's still conflict here, and the powers of darkness still reign in much of the world. So the angels have a rough time of it, especially at the hands of people with grudges against angels. Here's Grizzlebrand himself. I think I'm going to recap this super quickly. I don't want to go into too much detail. There are 3 main Planeswalker characters in the Innistrad story. Sorin Markov, Liliana Vess, and Garrett Wildspeaker. Each of them is after something different. Sorin Markov wants to find the angel he created. When he comes to his home plane and realizes that she's gone, he knows it's only a matter of time before humanity disappears with her. So he's looking for her. Garrett is looking for Liliana. Liliana has put the curse of the chain veil on Garrett, and he seeks to remove it either by forcing her to, or if she can't, by killing her. And Liliana Vess is looking for the demon Grizzlebrand, one of 4 demons to whom she's indebted, one of 4 demons to whom she owes her soul. And with the power of the chain veil, she intends to kill those 4 demons and reclaim her soul. As I said, all kinds of Abyssinian magic is re-empowered, so it's not just wall-to-wall angels. The Abyssinian archmages, whose arcane power had vanished for years, have returned, and there's various orders of archmages, including those who seek out necromancers' secret laboratories and destroy them. There are special Abyssinian griffins that we call gryphs. The gryphs have heron heads rather than eagle heads. As the super storyline hardcore, you know, Innistrad's moon is literally made of silver. In the image of the moon, you can see the shape of a heron suggested. That's why the province of Gavin, for example, has the heron in its coat of arms. It's also, that symbol has come to represent Abyssinian herself. So these special griffins, these gryphs, these Abyssinian griffins reappear with you. And here's how they look on cards. Absent is also able to turn some of the creatures formerly of the night into champions for good. These are the Revenants. Revenants are once malevolent spirits who Avison is able to redeem. They stay spirits, but in return for their servitude, they gain peace. So these are sort of, believe it or not, these are good guys, and they're pretty good-looking good guys. They are sort of Avison's enforcers. And finally, the Wolfear. So the story behind the Wolfear is that when Avison returns, those infected with lycanthropy are not infected. It's more of a curse. It's sort of a metaphysical curse that afflicts werewolves. Avison says that she can't remove that curse entirely. What she can do is fuse the 2 essences, the 2 parts of the spirit in a werewolf, the civilized human side and the raging werewolf side. She can resolve the 2. For that benefit, those who take her up on her offer become these Wolfear, which are sort of noble guardians of the Abyssinian Church. Not all werewolves take her up on the offer, but those who don't have to go into hiding because of the newly empowered Abyssinian forces that are pushing back everything that would destroy humanity. And here's how they turn out. I'm going to hand it over to Dave Guskin, who is on the Absolute Store design team. He's going to talk about designing set.
Hello. So yeah, I was a designer on the design team. I was also a developer on Data Freeze development team, so we'll talk about that. For those who don't know, we split our card design process into like an initial phase where we're doing kind of the rough draft, like coming up with all the ideas and putting them onto cards. Then we have a second phase, which is more like making it more final, making a finished product, making it fun to play, and a really appealing experience. So when we first started, we had some top-level goals. Like we knew this was a third act. This was going to be its own standalone set, but we knew it was still going to be in the plane of Innistrad. So we knew for sure that we wanted more continuity between the first two sets and the third set that we've had previously. If you guys remember the set Rise of the Eldrazi, there's not much mechanical continuity there. Basically none of the mechanics from the first two parts of the block come into the third set. So we knew we wanted to keep something, but we weren't exactly sure what. We knew we were going to have humans and monsters, and as Brady said, we knew we wanted to have kind of a teamwork, like humans banding together, things are turning around for them. But we wanted to look into like what can we keep from Innistrad Dark Ascension. So we tried out some things. We tried out Flashback for a while. The problem with that is Flashback puts a lot of mechanical pressure on the graveyard. I'm sure those of you who played with Innistrad and Dark Ascension know that the graveyard is very relevant, and it's fun to do that, but we didn't want that to take over and be everything that Atmosphere Restore was about, because we wanted the humans and the angels and some other mechanical things to come out. So what we did end up keeping was Undying from Dark Ascension, because we knew that in the end, the strongest monsters would be the ones that survived all the humans coming out and trying to crush them. So I'm going to show you now, for the first time ever, a new card from Atmosphere Restore with the Undying mechanic.
There's a little story angle here too. When Liliana first arrives on Innistrad, she has to track down Grizzlebrand. And there's a fairly elaborate backstory. The first place that Liliana goes is the chasm called Ashmouth. Ashmouth is in the Stensian Highlands. She goes there looking for demons and really only finds piddly little demons compared to the one that she's looking for. Those demons point her toward the demon worshiping cult in the Earth Wall, also called Ditch, in the province of Nephalia. So Liliana's journey takes her from Stensia all the way over to Nephalia to find these demon cultists, and then up into Thraben itself where demon cultists infiltrate. That's how she finds out where the Grizzlebrand is.
Brady, I don't think anybody heard you because we're all whispering and talking about how they're going to...
Excellent, that's the idea. delicious cards.
I will say a few things about Undying and Atmosphere Restore. So you will find that we wove in a couple new mechanical elements that allow you to play with Undying in a new way, and Dave will talk about that when he talks about the development of the set. And additionally, you'll see that a lot of the mechanical stuff is kind of spread among colors, but black kind of gets shortened a little bit because we know that black is kind of the center of the monsters. But what it does get a lot of is Undying, so you can see that in the set.
Another thing I wanted to mention real quick is that I talked about how we wanted to shift the tone from dark and gloomy to the sun breaking through the clouds. It's still Innistrad, we still want the world intact, but there's a tonal shift. And the basic lands of the set reflect that tonal shift in a very direct way. And you will get to see that for yourself if you stay until the end of the hour. Because it will be given.
Okay, so we've talked about monsters a bit, so I'm going to move on to kind of humans and what's going on with them, and talk about a new mechanic in the set called Soul Bond. So during the process of designing Atmosphere Restore, we knew that we wanted humans working together and overcoming the monsters that have been terrorizing them, and sort of cooperating and having something where it feels like you can team up on the battlefields. And we've kind of tried mechanics like this many times. None of them made to print, so you won't have seen them. But Allies, for example, from Zendikar were an attempt to do this. And there was another mechanic called Bind, that was originally called Link, that we brought into design, and Atmosphere Restore. It was really fun. It was tons of fun to play with. And the way it works is, and you can kind of see an early template here, is that two creatures will bind together, and while they're bound, they both give each other a benefit. They both get a benefit from it. This gave us a really good way to show, like, teaming up on the battlefield without really overwhelming you with complexity. Like, you don't have to spell it out exactly what's going on, because you get the feeling that they're both aiding each other in combat and on the battlefield. So I'm going to show you another preview card, a card with the mechanic Soul Bond.
smell the sounds of your brains working.
It's also the buy a box card.
Can you read it for us? Some of us can't read it from the table.
Oh, sorry, yes, so it's Silverblade Paladin. It costs 1 white. It is a 2/2 with the mechanics Soul Wand, which I will read the reminder text.
Here's the reminder text. You may pair this creature with another unpaired creature when either enters the battlefield. They remain paired for as long as you control both of them.
As long as it's paired, they both get double strength.
When either of these
Right, and the rules text says, as long as Silverblade Paladin is paired with another creature, both creatures have double strength. So this creates a metaphysical bond between two creatures. The idea is that both creatures are sort of, in spirit, are Abyssinian allies. When one comes into play, he grants a benefit to another, and both receive that benefit for as long as they remain.
Right, and you'll notice that for those who were paying attention, this template is slightly modified from what we playtested with because we found that you'll play a Soulbond guy, and if his buddy that he's paired with dies, then originally there's no way to rebind it without having another Soulbond creature. And we do like the exciting moment of having 2 Soulbond guys come together and give each other really big benefits. But we found in playing that we wanted to have the binding process to happen more frequently. So we changed it so that instead of it just happening when the Soulbond creature comes in, now it can happen also when any unpaired creature comes in, if the Soulbond creature is unpaired. So that added to the gameplay, and we really feel like it plays really well.
I see some hands already coming up. We will try our best to make sure there's room for some Q&A. And also, there'll be a mechanics article going up on Monday to talk about some of these more details.
Right, on Sunday night for Monday on the website.
Yeah, there are some crazy rules issues in the set. You've got to trust that we've thought about them at least as much as you have. So you'll see more details in the week to come.
So I'm going to hand it over now to Dave Humphreys, who's the lead developer for the set. He's going to talk about the development of Toy Story.
All right, I will mention before moving on to my first slide, just on Soulbond, one other thing to add in terms of one of the reason that we made the modification as well, so that you could play the Soulbond creature first and still get full utility out of it. Just we also found that it was just sort of frustrating if we had a one mana cost creature, like you draw a Soulbond, you're like, do I save this till later, or like, should I just run it out now? So it just created a lot more flexibility, and these are the sorts of things that we're trying to sort out as we work through the development of the set. So the development team's goals, just to reiterate a little bit what Dave said. So we have a design team that works largely independently. There's usually a design rep that then transitions to the development team. So Dave Guskin was the lucky person to be on both teams and look at these cards for progress a year.
Yeah, maybe more than 80.
So, as with many sets, a lot of the goals here are just to really fully capture the main themes of the set, find out what's working well, refine that, make it work better, take the mechanics, slightly tweak them here and there to make them more exciting. The first thing I have noted here on the slide is one of the mechanics that we'll get to at the very end is probably one of the most out there mechanics in terms of it's a little bit like double-faced cards, and there was a lot of questions, can we really do this? It started off.
No, we can't do it.
We can do it.
We did it.
Yeah.
It's easy to throw hands in. I love this. It's great.
At any rate, yeah, like through much of design, it was an entirely different mechanic in that case, but we still we found a way to get back to its essence, which was to really just create as much excitement each and every draw step as possible, and that's what you'll see at the end of this. Also, then we're just wanting to capture all of this teamwork, and this is finally a chance for the good guys to be winning and kicking butt. And Brady keeps leaving us with Phyrexians destroying the world and whatever else.
I do prefer a dark ending.
Brady's a pretty dark guy, I think. So yeah, just really trying to capture, make sure it makes sense, like as much as possible. Like there's a lot of human tribal, there's angel tribal. We really want to show the good guys working, sort of in contrast. Dave alluded to a little bit, but some of this is then figuring out. Well, angels is very much the easy part in many ways. It's easy to give you a dozen or so angels, and that'll make you happy. But what about for the other colors? What are they doing? Especially when you have colors like blue, that blue thrives in many ways on having good flyers. What is their role? We found their own little niches, and and I'll show you at least a couple cards.
Yeah, we have shown you a lot of white cards, but the mechanics that we've shown you so far and the ones that we're going to show you to come are not confined to white. You'll see in the next couple of weeks how far those mechanics spread out, but one way in which we prevented this from being too white man-centric was to make sure that the other colors got some of that sauce as well.
Also, just in terms of specifically for black, and it bleeds a little into blue, like contrasting with the good guys teaming up and working together, we sort of have a small, subtle set of cards that reward you for having just a lone guy, like one last guy on the battlefield, which we layered in a little bit in development. Also then, angel theme, as Brady just mentioned, it is an equal balance of colors. We talked a little bit about having more white cards than other cards, but it's equal balance amongst the colors. And to another preview card. I guess I'll read this again.
Oh, yeah. So it says it has flash, it has flying, it has Lobo Pete outfit.
It's got it all.
When Restoration Angel enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-angel creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control.
So this card, just in terms of vantage point of what this card was trying to convey to us, we call this Rescue Angel through most of our play testing. You know, the idea being that sort of at moment's notice it has flash, you can come in and save any of your other creatures from any number of innumerable harms. The enters the battlefield spell that's effectively casting, some of you may recognize from years past, and most notably Flicker. We also call this
Flicker Angel.
Flicker Angel at many points. There's actually a fair bit of flickering in the set compared to normal. We realize that it works very well with some of the other mechanics and goals of the set, specifically like Undying we mentioned earlier. Undying, when the creature dies, it comes back with a +1/+1 counter. This is a way to reset that creature back to its original state so that it actually has one more life. Also, as with this very card itself, a number of the good guy creatures are casting spells effectively as they enter the battlefild, like this one. Get flickering and effects like that, give them ways to reuse those enter the battlefield triggers and get more value out of that.
Right, you can also do interesting things with Soul Bond if you think about it. Mid-combat, if you can cast an instant or this creature to reunite in a different way.
You guys seem to have really thought about this.
God forbid.
Soul Bond, is certainly one, like, just when you think you know what sort of pair you're up against, like, any number of cool combinations can come up. And
So make sure that cards colors other than white gets love.
How do you kill it?
Vice President of R&D Bill Rose came to me and asked me a question. It's possible that he asked me a question. He was like, so how many non-white angels can we do? So I'm the guy who spoiled the fun and said zero. Angels need to be white, but they don't need to be only white. So this is one of the multicolored angels that you'll see. There may or may not be others. Oh yeah, sorry. So the casting cost is 2 white mana, 1 green mana, and 2 mana of any kind. In other words, 2 GWW for those of you who know our slang. It has flying and hexproof. Its rules text reads, spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause you to sacrifice permanents. And she's 5/5.
So in many ways, this card, to some extent, speaks for itself. We went through any number of iterations in trying to figure out what fit best on this. Certainly, if nothing else, I think we're very proud of the fact that how well this is a green and white card. It gives you a very strong against their enemy color black. You might even be able to think of a planeswalker such that has
Angel of Hope plus that. It would be indestructible and
this
hexproof.
gives you
So
very good
you're only
protection against
less-
Liliana, who has sacrificed
There's
her
anything
number of other
standard.
sacrifices. sacrifice
you
effect,
can do,
sacrifice
well,
effects
at least
are
now
a
you
part
got
of
Black
this.
Sun
Do we have commander players on this?
5. I mean, seriously, you put those two together, you can't destroy them.
Just
about only a handful of things are gonna have to deal with this
With
stuff.
all of our sets, yeah.
So this is gonna be pretty much a rape.
Legendary angels, we're always looking out for our commander players.
And there's still 2 more hosts.
So before I move on to the next slide, so the last mechanic I've alluded to a little bit. It's a spell mechanic, it only exists on spells. We've talked about divine power and wanting to show off divine power. I'll just give you all a minute to potentially try to brainstorm what name we might have chosen.
Let's say that you're in charge of inventing the keywords for mechanics, and your job is to come up with a keyword for divine power and holy might. What keyword do you come up with?
Affinity for angels.
Affinity for angels. Well played.
Guest in one.
I heard smite as a guess. Okay, what else?
Divine might.
Don't dance with other angels. I think. Well, let's show you what we came up with.
It's a miracle.
It's pretty good.
I don't know what that means yet.
I hate you.
Did anyone get that? All right. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of debate exactly over the implementation of this. It's changed a fair bit in development. Again, we'll get to the gameplay very momentarily here. Again, just to remind you that the main goal here is just
Make it
to
look
create
fancy
as
when you
much
draw?
tension and excitement. You know, like you've had those games where, like, really, like, this is the only card I can draw. Like, these cards are set up to be that card that, like, this is the card you gotta draw. You'll be thinking about that card.
That might say combo block. Once you cast it, it's like, yeah, this is like maybe, I don't know. But it can't be that bad.
And yeah, it's special in its own way that we have a new card frame treatment for as well. So let's just get to it.
All right, the card is called Thunderous Wrath. It costs 4 or 2 red mana. It's an instant. Thunderous Wrath deals 5 damage to every creature or player. Now we would like to bring in, for those of you on the far right, the miracle text is as follows. Miracle R, or Miracle 1 red mana. You may cast this card for its miracle cost when you draw it, if it's the first card you drew this turn.
So,
You can see those rays of light trying to tell you, hey, you drew something important. Please stop whatever you're doing and pay attention to me.
that's why. Yeah,
So
pretty much like a holographic pay for it.
I'll do my best to at least give you a little bit more background.
So pretty much all you have to do is one fire card, one red mana, and you're done.
Hear the sea whispering.
So yeah, one thing to keep in mind, like this was tricky. It wasn't quite figured out by the time that this came to development.
So as long as you draw it, it's 1 mana.
What I was trying to do was, as much as possible, make this like when you draw this card, you sure want to cast it. Some of that amounted to getting that miracle cost as low as we possibly could. Can't get much lower than a single R to cast it.
It could be a free card. It could just be a free play.
There is going to be let you pay for things or play things without paying their mana cost. Bad things sometimes happen to the metagame.
And also we want all of these
In my one guy has the artifact deck, no mana cost up for the spell.
So I will mention just one thing,
rates
as
everyone.
Brady mentioned in reading the text for it. It is only the first card you've drawn this turn, just in terms of development stories and issues. One of the things was that we realized that when this first came along, it was just any card you drew, and what we quickly found is like, well, I know how I'm going to build this deck. I'm going to play every card that I can imagine that draws more cards. And we found that was very much at odds with our actual goal. Like, the more cards, if you're drawing 2 or 3 cards, potentially a turn, or on other turns, that, like, actually each draw you had is actually that much less exciting, not more exciting. So that's the reason that it is limited just to the first card you draw each turn. It does lead to those moments where you're kind of peeking at the card, and we do acknowledge that this is going to lead to, if you're putting these into your deck, that you need to like at least remember that they're in your deck, and you need to be cognizant of the fact that as you're drawing these, you want to be looking at them. This is why we we have a new card frame treatment. We don't just sort of willy-nilly do new card frame treatments. This is there for a very functional reason, which is like, oh, I do this, like I need to pay attention to this before I put it in my hand or shuffle it.
This is also another example of, just as humanity exists in all 5 colors, that means that if humans are in all 5 colors, then Abyssinian magic is in all 5 colors. This is another example of a color other than white getting some love.
Well, except for black. Actually, there are no black miracles.
Aww.
Black gets some other good stuff in the sets.
The sweet
Sins?
Crystal Brand.
That's most of what we've got to show you, and we're hoping to take some questions from the crowd.
Yeah, so here's what we'll do. We'll actually do some gray squares, and Miles and the enforcers are going to have mics for you. But before you get up to get in line for questions, many of you have probably been to our magic booth, and you might have seen that we have some magic items like shirts and there are bags and like skins for your cases for your cell phones. Well, under your seat, or maybe under your seat,
Under some of those seats.
you might have a number. And if you do, then at the end of this panel, should be taped to your seat. You're going to want to go, it's on the front of the seats. The front part of the seat.
Yeah, it's
You gotta feel under with your, I guess. Oh man, I don't know.
So congratulations to the winners.
What you're going to want to do if you've got one of those numbers is the first exit door over here, closest to us, over where the gentleman is waving his arms. You're going to want to go there to get your cool.
At the end though, because we have something exciting for you at the end after questions.
And then we also have that lamb that we talked about. And so let's go ahead and you've got a chance here to ask questions to the Amazon Store guys on design and development teams and also creators.
If you find a piece of paper under your seat that has tape on it, for those of you who didn't get the lucky chairs, everybody will get an Amazon Restored basic plan on the way out.
Hi, my question is, in the entire block, it seems like most of the white humans and other good characters have been white. Is there any effort from the team to sort of get the art more in line with the increasing diversity of Magic's player base?
Yeah, it's an issue we think about a lot, and you're right that it was extra challenging with Innistrad. Because Innistrad tries to imagine this sort of northern Europe, right? Like the Gothic horror stories are often set in, especially the Penny Dreadfuls in London, and also like some early German films like the 1920s and 30s Germany. The World Guide contains a number of non-Caucasian subjects. The challenge we face is that we try not to micro-control our illustrators. All of our illustrators are contractors. They all work for us and for other clients. And one of the reasons why we get the best illustrators in the world is because we give them the freedom to address the composition, to address the art order as they see fit. That means that when we send an art order out, we'll see a sketch for the piece of art 3 or 4 weeks later, but that sketch won't be in color and is often not detailed at all. And then by the time we see the final painting, the artist has had their chance of creative self-expression, and we have to think twice before saying, too many white people will do it over. So we make an effort. We think about it a lot. I'm especially sensitive to it because I believe that the whole fantasy genre is too white. I would love to see more non-Caucasian subjects in fantasy broadly. But that said, because we do all of our work with contractors, there's only so much control we can practice before we start alienating people by telling them too many details and taking creative control away from them. But thank you for asking.
Let's go to the other side, we'll rotate. Hey gentlemen, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Have any of you ever played a deck that both had a Sylvan Library and Brainstorm in it?
Yes, I have in Cube. I play in Cube Limited, which many of you know is...
Excellent format.
Yeah, it's a limited format that is a person creates a set of cards that they then have their friends draft for them. And in that format, you have to get to play with many old, very powerful cards.
That's not your real question.
No, that's the lead-in question. So, having experience with that interaction, how can you justify extending that rules headache? It's one of the top rules headaches in the game. Why would you extend that using the miracle mechanic into standard?
Well, I mean, fortunately, Brainstorm is not a headache in standard. Again, like, you know, we're trying to make the best player experience we can for standard in many cases. Certainly, we're very wary of all the other formats that are all of our players from Legacy all the way through to standard. You know, it's going to be very interesting to see how powerful and good some of these effects are with Brainstorm in particular.
I'm not asking about. I was using that as an example to talk about drawing a card and having to separate it as the first card you've drawn compared to other cards you've drawn on the turn.
You're totally right that this introduces some complications, and it's something that R&D in general is thinking about a lot in the development of new sets. There's this tension between rules elegance and excitement and novelty. Magic players have an endless appetite for novelty. And for us, we believe that rocking the boat a little rules-wise is worth creating that sense of excitement and drama that we didn't have before. I think when you get more details on the miracle mechanic, you'll see how we dealt with some of those complications. But it is less elegant than mechanics in the past, and we believe more exciting as well.
Thank you.
All right, how you guys doing? Two quick questions. First, I've seen the question asked a lot. I never saw a legitimate answer. Is there a link between Avacyn and Sarah?
Is there a link between Avacyn and Sarah?
Yes.
No, there's not. It's not. If there is a link between Avacyn and Sarah, it's not known. Sarah was a white line planeswalker who created her own plane.
Right.
Sarah Angels are her creation. There are a few different angel stories, and this is unintentional, honestly, that allude to the sudden disappearance of an angelic figure. Sarah wasn't an angel herself, but she's connected with angels. I've also been asked whether there's a connection between Avacyn and the Archangel Asha on the plane of Alara. And the answer is no. In this case, Sorin created Avacyn to keep the balance on his world. Sorin is very well traveled. Sorin is many millennia old. So I wouldn't be surprised if Sorin has encountered Sarah Angels, or maybe even Sarah himself, but there's no connection between his angel and Sarah herself.
And the second question, I realized that answer pretty long. Are there any, all the angels we saw today were female. Are there any male angels?
Well, we occasionally do a male, like Malik of the Dawn, for example. Right now, almost all of the demons in Magic are male, and all of the angels are female, largely out of tradition, largely out of just a grandfathered-in pattern. I think Magic players expect angels to be female, and Magic, when you define Magic player expectations, often Magic players are like, why did you do that? I know what angels are. You're breaking that definition. We also think about that gender parity in the same way that we think about non-Caucasians in fantasy. The gender parity issue is tough in terms of, why, for example, aren't there female demons or male angels? Part of it is that we don't want to demonize.
Demons.
Often when you combine evil with a female figure, you end up demonizing sexuality, and we want to carefully avoid that. On the other side, why aren't there male angels? Like I said, it's largely pattern and tradition.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, so my question is regarding the interaction between Soulbond and Banding. If you...
Unfortunately, Matt Tabak, the Magic Rules Manager, is not here today, but I can guarantee you that he will talk about it at some point in either the article that's going up on Monday, which I have not read, or in the subsequent days.
My answer remains, if you play Banding, you deserve what you get.
Let's take a moment in questions here because we should leverage our internets here. We've got some people who've been following the panel live, and John Hickey, our social media manager, has a question from the internet. So here we go.
Hello,
The internet wants to know.
Hi, I am the internet. Hello. Because Absent Restored wants to be such a white set with all the angels and such, how did you approach creating black and red? So it's interesting. We have a lot of people online that are saying, but I love black, I love red, what do you have for me? So that's the question from the internet.
Yeah, so we did spend a lot of time in design and then also in development because, as Dave has mentioned, the angels are kind of a focus in the set. It's difficult when you're trying to balance the set for limited or to provide tools for people who want to build decks to not just be on the white path. So what we ended up doing is, as Dave mentioned, there's a mechanic which we've nicknamed Loner that is centered in black. Additionally, there's kind of a mini theme with haste and humans in red. So I feel like we've definitely done some things that I think will be exciting and enjoyable and will be cards that you can build around and that you can add to your decks that are in black and red. Now, there aren't angels. Probably there aren't angels. But there are a lot of cool things that you can do with the colors in the set as well.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it a bit. I mean, in particular, some of the good guy stuff does bleed a little bit into red. Like, there's a lot of human tribal in red. Red's part of the good guys in a sense. Black stands more out with this, with some of the stuff that Dave mentioned.
Yeah, and Undying too shows up in both.
And let's be real, demons are about as cool, if not cooler, than angels, depending on
And
your perspective.
there are quite a few demons in the set as well.
Hey.
Thank you, Internet.
When designing a set like this,
Thanks,
with a
4chan.
mechanic like Miracle, which is obviously potentially very strong as any reduced cost ability is, how much focus do you give to internal formats and things like Commander?
I mean, much of our testing is with standard. Certainly, we're very cognizant of you know what's going to be problematic in other formats. You know, we've already. You know, I mentioned Brainstorm earlier, like there are a lot of cards that are super powerful with miracles when you can reliably set this up, and cards that are taking cards specifically from your hand and putting them back on top of your deck. You know, in many ways we still want to challenge the community to see what they're going to be able to come up with some of this stuff. I mean, there's certainly, you know, there's one card in particular that I'd say, you know, we're probably more nervous about than some other cards that'll probably be getting previewed very soon.
I think it's getting previewed on Monday. Or Sunday night.
Look at Rosewater previews soon, but we're always worried about other formats. We're always looking at other formats, but in the end, the bulk of our playtesting time is towards standard, just because that's where
Playtesting resources often go majority towards standard, but within R&D there are champions for any number of formats. So there's people looking out for you inside. You know, like there's the commander guy who's like, wait, hold on, this is going to wreck my favorite format. And you know, R&D isn't quite as diverse as the millions of Magic players worldwide, but across R&D design development, we have enough diversity of preference that those issues do get covered.
And I will add, like, just on that note, like, we show our cards to many people in the company. They have a chance to give us feedback. A lot of these people, just like only play Commander or only play some other various, varied formats. So we get feedback from a lot of people. We have a lot of people, like, with their eyes open. It's just, I guess our team in particular tends to be a little bit more focused on standard, just if nothing else, because so many of our high-profile events are using that format, and that's where a lot of the pressure is. When we have thousands of people playing this, a Grand Prix week after week, just that much more attention on it.
Thanks.
Hi. First of all, thank you so much for all your hard work on the Magic brand recently. Thank you for coming. Thank you. I've been really awesome about that couple of years. My question is Soul Bond isolated to creatures, or are there ways to grant Soul Bond and the corresponding benefits to creatures via either equipment or auras or world enchantments?
No comment. World enchantments.
Yes.
So I will talk a little bit about the design of Soul Bond. So when we first started with this bind, we had it across a bunch of different things. It wasn't just two creatures uniting. It was sometimes a creature in a land. It was sometimes like enchantment and equipment, etc., etc. What we found was creatures binding to each other was fun enough and cut deep enough that we could get the cards we wanted for the set out of that and we didn't really have to stray beyond that too far. I do think that Solbon is going to be very popular. It's going to be fun to play with, and I hope that we can do it again. When we do, that's when we come out with some of the more complex situations you're talking about. I don't think you'll find. I think you will find some things that have some complexity depth to them, but overall, we kind of kept it simple for the first time out. Thank you.
Hi. So the question I want to ask is, when you're first starting to design a set, how do you approach the issue of you say I'm going to make X cards that are going to be good for standard, I'm going to make X number of cards that are going to be good for modern. How do you approach that? And then you say, okay, Gravecrawler, that's going to influence standard, and then this legendary creature is going to be very good in modern. Like, how do you do that? Do you have a set number of cards that you really want to hit for each different format?
In terms, like, we certainly have guidelines where we're trying to get it to a certain number of cards that we're sort of targeting, like to be like fringe playable in various formats or like clear-cut hits in various formats. So yeah, we do have specific goals where we're trying to get to a certain number of cards that we're just confident that are going to make it into one format or another. That can vary a little bit, but sometimes we do want to push some formats more than others a little bit. Like we like, oh, this cycle of cards will fit really well into modern, or this cycle of cards will fit well into legacy, or it seems like this deck's been doing well enough in legacy, let's say, for long enough that it would be really good to put in a card that's going to be really good in that format and mix up the format. Some as you've probably seen with some recent sets.
I can also note that we're not perfect. Oftentimes we'll guess at what we think is going to impact things. There's not a ton of us. I mean, we're smart people and we do a good job on the most part, but we're not thousands and thousands and thousands of Magic players playing all the time. So we take swings, like Dave's talking about, where we have some certainty that we think we're going to have many of these cards impact formats. We're not sure until it's actually out in the real world. So.
Sorry for those of you who are running out of time to get questions too.
Thank you. Apologize for that.
Hi. My question is about Miracle. With a mechanic like Miracle, where it relies on drawing cards, you have some playing, you draw 2 cards. It would become really easy to cheat and just say, oh yeah, this is the card that I drew at the beginning of the turn. How much does something like that impact, like when you're thinking, should we put this in, should we not put this in?
We certainly think about it a lot. I mean, in that particular example, you are drawing those cards sequentially, so it's going to take some getting used to. Like the first time you play with this, it might be a little bit rough, but if you're putting these in your deck, the first card you draw from Howling Mine, you need to consider that card that you're drawing, and then use it as a miracle or not, reveal it or not. It's optional whether you're even revealing that card. If it is a miracle, even you can choose not to be playing it then. But then you draw the second card and proceed along, and yeah, it'll take some getting used to. And that was certainly, we explored other things like, well, maybe we can only do this if you have an empty hand when you draw the card, and just in the end, it's so many things where many people are playing more casually anyways, where it's sort of on them. Most people when we talk to residents that do play more casually, in particular, we're just yeah, we can police ourselves on this. People aren't going to be cheating in their casual games.
I would also like to reiterate that Matt Tabak is the rules manager for Magic, and he will write up a very definitive fact about this mechanic, which will apply to tournament play, for example, which are the less casual situations that you might be asking about. Thank you.
Hi. I really like the Rise of the Eldrazi, especially the limited format. And now with Avacyn Restored being another standalone block, I was wondering why this was going to be a standalone block, and if this standalone block will come again in the future.
Yes, so I know that so Brian Tinson was the lead designer for Rise of the Eldrazi and also for Avacyn Restored. And I know that when he was kind of given the job to be the lead, he was kind of told hey, this is going to be its own set. I know that we're still kind of experimenting with that sort of thing. I can't say one way or the other whether we're going to come back to it, but it would not surprise me. I know that it also gives us some freedom to explore shifts in the setting. For example, the Eldrazi arriving to Zendikar or Avacyn being restored in Innistrad that give us some cool ways to put a new spin on things mechanically. So I think that's definitely been something that we've enjoyed and how I've
don't think we're done playing with formats. Like we're still playing around, still trying to find new hooks, new things that ways of changing the 3-act structure, ways of changing the structure of the block that will work. In a very, very early stage of Action Story, we considered having it be not set in Innistrad. Part of the reason why it is, why it's more connected to Innistrad Dark Ascension than Rise of Eldrazi was, because we heard what you guys had to say when Rise of Eldrazi came out, and how much you wanted a continuation, how much you wanted a third act, how many of you thought it was connected enough, and how many of you thought that it could use more connections. And I think everyone benefits from that feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. I have two quick questions. One, since the last 2 sets were all about all the white humans waiting like desperately for Avacyn to come back, wouldn't it have made sense for Avacyn herself to have the miracle mechanic?
I can talk a little bit about that actually. So Miracle was not in the original design. There was a different mechanic that we tried really hard to get to work that had a lot of the same goals as Miracle has, which is you want it to be exciting and make it, each turn feels really exciting. Back then, Avacyn did have that mechanic, but as Dave said, when we couldn't get that mechanic to work, we moved on to Miracle. Miracle is a spell mechanic, and Avacyn obviously we want her to be a really awesome, badass angel. It's very difficult to merge the two, and I think you'll find that they just want to serve different goals. Like Avacyn is a really awesome permanent on the battlefield, and miracles are kind of creating that excitement in that one shot.
Rape everyone in one turn.
And also, I play Turbo Fog in Standard because it's cool. I was wondering, out of the next 250 cards in the set, will this set make me happy? How many fogs did you guys put?
I think there's Fog Angel and Fog Demon.
Salt on fire.
One of our developers, Billy Moreno, loves Turbo Fog and actually did play a number of variants on that during the FFL.
I think you will find some cards that you will enjoy.
I made up Fog Angels too.
Thank you.
So my question is, with angels being such a huge part of this set, a lot of the appeal of angels for a lot of people is that they're this huge, flavorfully and mechanically huge bombs. How does R&D keep it exciting between when you have a tribal angel team, and I don't know if there are a bunch of demons too, when you have these things that have historically been such bombs and make them such a huge part and a diverse part of the same set, how do you keep them all exciting? We have 30 angels in the set or whatever. How do you keep it interesting from one angel to the other?
The glib answer is you'll see. The slightly longer answer is what I didn't want is I wasn't thrilled with the Urza Saga decision to put boring angels in for the sake of making it feel angel-y. Like I don't want a 2/2 vanilla angel. That sucks. Like that just doesn't excite me. That takes something that's iconic and cool and kind of cheapens it a little bit.
So we have the time. So thank you guys very much for your questions. Before you, and thank you for coming to us. So before you all stand up, there is one more thing we thought you might want to know.
We're not going to take any more questions.
That's all we want!
I wish I was looking at this.